It's game day. Indiana Fever versus Atlanta Dream. The Clark Show, baby. Caitlin Clark versus Angel, the lean, mean rebound machine Reese, set to take off.
Game night in Indianapolis, Thursday, June 18th. Caitlin Clark and the Fever hosting Angel Reese and the Atlanta Dream for round 2 of the season's loudest rivalry. But before a single ball gets tipped, the man behind the mic is fired up about something that has nothing to do with the matchup, and everything to do with what the Fever are handing out at the door tonight.
Caitlin Clark ball, they have finally ditched the nonsense Stephanie White offensive system that nobody likes, nobody wants to see, and for good reason. Good riddance to your offense, Stephanie White. This is the Clark Show, and she needs to put on a real Clark Show to get a win versus.
That's the heart of his case. Turn Caitlin Clark loose, and stop running her off the ball. And it is not a fringe take. All season, the relationship between Clark and head coach Stephanie White has been picked apart. White's comments about wanting Clark to play more off the ball, a tense sideline exchange caught on camera, fans dissecting every interaction between the two. Hold on to that tension. It becomes the whole story in a few minutes.
On the Atlanta Dream, but there's some business we got to get to before we even get to this, man. The Indiana Fever have stooped to a new low. The Indiana Fever, not only is it family night.
Here's what set him off. Family night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. $32 gets you a ticket, a hat, a hot dog, and a couple of large sodas, standard promo night fare. And the Hoosier Lottery is a genuine Fever sponsor, running scratch-off giveaways and ticket sweepstakes at home games all year long. None of that is unusual for a pro sports franchise, but what he found next is what made him put everything down and grab the camera.
Away damn lottery tickets. The Indiana Fever giving out lotto tickets, y'all. This is crazy. Look at this here. Get ready for an exciting night with Hoosier Lottery. First 4,000 fans 18 plus will receive a free $1 scratch-off ticket or coupon, one per person while supplies last.
Free scratch-off tickets at the door. To him, that is a flashing sign of desperation, proof the Fever fumbled the most valuable asset in the sport. But the numbers complicate that story. Gainbridge has been drawing near-capacity crowds all season. The Fever are still the biggest draw in the league. A sponsor handing out $1 lottery tickets is not a team begging fans through the turnstiles. So, if it isn't empty seats, what's really got this fan base on edge? The answer lives on the court.
Clark, the golden goose, the needle, not the needle mover, the actual needle, the cake, not the icing on the cake, she's the whole cake. When did you think they would have to be giving away lottery tickets for fans to come to games? When did you think?
On the talent, he is dead right. Caitlin Clark just became the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 250 points and 100 assists in a single season, hitting both in 13 games. The league named her Eastern Conference Player of the Week on June 15 after a 3-0 stretch. The Clark effect is the most powerful force in this sport. But, the rough patch that fueled all of this frustration was not caused by a coach hiding the franchise player, it was caused by something messier and far more human.
Play basketball. You screwed the pooch. You blew it. And it's absolutely embarrassing that the Indiana Fever have been forced to stoop this low.
So, let's rewind. 3 weeks, May 20th. The Fever lose at home to the expansion Portland Fire, 100-84, the worst loss of their season. During that game, Clark and Stephanie White exchange animated words on the sideline in full view of the cameras. The team flies home, and a team meeting gets called. From May 28 through June 6, Indiana stumbles to a 1-3 record. Clark, managing a lingering back issue that had already cost her that Portland game, averages just 12 points on 28% shooting across the slump. This was never a marketing problem. This was a team and a superstar searching for themselves in real time.
We need that basketball in Caitlin Clark hands. The girl had 14 assists last game, even in an off night. 21 points, 14 assists. Nobody like it. The best in the business, okay? We need that ball in Caitlin Clark hands. We need her wheeling and dealing, driving and thriving, looking and dishing, and pulling up those logo threes and playing.
And then she found it. Tuesday night against the Toronto Tempo, Clark dropped 21 points and a season-high 14 assists in a 113-91 rout, the most points the Fever have ever scored in a regular season game. Those 14 assists tied the most by any player in the league this season. It was her 14th career game with at least 20 points and 10 assists, a WNBA record, and nobody else in history has more than 10. That is the 4-game win streak he's carrying into tonight. But, there's a catch he leaves out. Those 4 wins came against the Mystics, the Sky, the Sun, and the Tempo, 4 teams with a combined record of 18 and 37. The soft part of the schedule is over.
Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell need to win the matchup versus Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray, as they did before. Ryan Howard was absolutely putrid in the last game when they played the Indiana Fever, and I believe as long as you keep one of them quiet, you have a great chance of beating this team. I think you have an excellent chance of beating this team if you're able to keep Ryan Howard.
On the backcourt battle, the tape backs him up completely. In that first meeting on June 4th, Indiana held Atlanta to 34% shooting, their best defensive performance of the entire season. Ryan Howard, the Dream's leading scorer, was limited to 8 points on just 9 shots, the fewest she had attempted in any game all year. She and Alicia Gray combined for 21. That is the blueprint. Quiet one of those 2 guards, and Atlanta's offense seizes up. And it has been seizing up since trading for Angel Reese in the offseason. The Dream have ranked just 9th in the league in offensive rating, with a lot of the same pieces that hummed last year suddenly out of rhythm.
Thing, Aaliyah Boston, you need to dominate Angel Reese. Angel Reese is not as talented as Aaliyah Boston, but Angel Reese has a better motor. Angel Reese plays super hard all the time. It is what it is. But Aaliyah Boston, much more talented, much better player. Aaliyah Boston, you need to show Angel Reese what time it is. You need to be taking her down low, abusing her on that block. Angel Reese can't do nothing.
And that brings us to the matchup that sells this game, Aaliyah Boston against Angel Reese. He's right that on pure polish, Boston is the more refined player, averaging 17 points and nearly 9 rebounds as a two-way anchor in the paint. But writing off Reese is a mistake. She posted her 6th double-double of the season in that first meeting, 11 points and 10 rebounds, and the Gainbridge crowd booed her from the opening introductions. They'll do it again tonight. That motor of hers is the exact reason Atlanta wanted her in the first place, because the backstory on the Dream matters. Last season, this franchise won 30 games, a franchise record, and earned the number 3 seed. Then they ran into a 6th-seeded, injury-ravaged Indiana team in the first round of the playoffs, and they folded. The more talented roster lost to the tougher one. So Atlanta traded for Reese to inject precisely that toughness, that emotion, that refusal to fade. The talent was never the question for them. The fight was. And that's the irony sitting underneath this entire broadcast. The thing he is begging the Fever to rediscover, the pace, the aggression, the identity, is the same quality Atlanta paid a premium to import. Both of these teams spent the first month of the season figuring out exactly who they are. For Indiana, that search ran straight through Caitlin Clark's body. Remember, a string of lower body injuries limited her to just 13 games in all of 2025, wrecking her sophomore year. As of Tuesday, she has now matched that entire season's game total in only 13 games of 2026. The back trouble that sidelined her against Portland is still something the team manages with serious caution, and every time Clark lands on an injury report, a portion of this fan base reacts with suspicion instead of concern, which tells you just how fragile the trust has become. Trust in whom? That's where Stephanie White walks back into the story. White did not just tweak the lineup. She changed the entire system, leaning into a denial and pressure defense that in Clark's own words forces everyone to guard their yard, a style a world away from the one that made Clark a phenomenon. For weeks, that adjustment looked like pure friction. The off-ball comments, the sideline blow-up, the trade rumors swirling around Indianapolis. All of it fed a story that the coach and the franchise player were not on the same page. But winning has a way of quieting all of that. Since the team meeting Portland, the Fever have gone 5-1. White said this week that Clark's burst is back, that she's moving and creating like herself again. Clark, for her part, has talked about regaining confidence in her body and trusting it again. The defense that looked broken in May has surrendered under 84 points a game in June, music, one of the stingiest marks in the league. So when our guy screams that the answer was always just to let Caitlin cook, he is half right and half missing it. The offense matters, of course it does. But the turnaround was not only about turning Clark loose. It was about a banged-up roster getting healthy, a brand new defensive identity finally clicking, and a locker room clearing the air. The scratch-off tickets at the door, that's a sponsor doing what sponsors do. The story was never the giveaway. It was the 6 days of chaos that nearly split this team open, and the 4 straight wins that stitched it back together. And the timing only raises the stakes. Indiana is 4-1, music, in Commissioner's Cup play, sitting within a half game of East leading New York for a spot in the June 30th final. So this hot streak is feeding a trophy chase. In the standings, the Fever are 9-5, and the Dream are 9-4, half a game apart, both clawing for position in a brutally tight playoff race. A win tonight is seeding. It's momentum. It's a measuring stick against a true contender right after a stretch of cupcakes. And it answers the question this whole video has been circling: is Indiana truly back, or did they simply pad their record against the bottom of the league and a Toronto expansion team, then convince themselves they had everything solved? Beating Atlanta, a team they already owned this season, would prove the turnaround is legitimate. Losing would hand every doubter their ammunition right back. And step back for the bigger picture. Clark vs. Reese is the most watched rivalry in the women's game, the matchup that drives the ratings, packs the arenas, and dominates every conversation. Which is the final irony of where we began. The Fever do not need to hand out $1 scratch-offs to sell this particular night. A Clark and Reese rematch sells itself. The giveaway was never the story. The basketball always was. So here is where you come in. Was the Fever slump really Stephanie White's fault, the way he insists, or was it injuries, chemistry, and a defensive overhaul that just needed time to breathe? You can't credit the system for the 4-game streak and blame the coach for everything that came before it. Pick one. Drop it in the comments and tell me why. And if you want the full breakdown the moment this game ends, win or lose, make sure you're subscribed because this Clark and Reese rivalry is only getting started.